Hey everybody, welcome back. Today is part 2 of the isometric drawing style. In part 1, I showed you how to set up the document drawing and set up the isometric grid in the back and to be able to draw isometrically. And what I've done for this one is set the drawing up again, but I've also drawn this 3-view drawing here because we are going to be drawing the 1-4 bracket here. And there's 2 new things that we're going to cover in this video, and that is that we're going to learn how to do the angles on isometric. You have some 37 degree and 51 degree and 40 degree angles on here, and I'll show you how to create them. And then also to create holes in isometric. So there's a couple of steps that you have to go through to get those things done. So let's just jump right into it. I've already drawn this because this is a pretty important part of how to draw angles in isometric. We are really not able to, without some heavy-duty math, to be able to figure out what angle your lines are going to be when drawn in 30-degree isometric. So without having to get into more complicated math, basically what we're going to do is we're going to look at this as having 2 end points, so a start point and an end point. And we're going to draw a line that would end up going straight out this way until we would then draw a line up to meet it this way. So to be able to draw these lines in 3 views first is going to be really important so that I can get my line lengths for my 40-degree angle here, 37 here, and 51 here. So let's get started with drawing the bottom base of this whole thing. It's 5 inches long and 2 1/8 inch wide. So I'm just going to draw over here, start drawing a line that is 5 inches in one direction and 2 1/8 in another direction, and then connect that back together again, back over here, 5 and 2 1/8. And now we can raise the base up here. And we'll actually, before we add some thickness to it, let's cut off this corner, and I'll show you how to do the angles. So it's as if we are taking this line right here, but instead of drawing it in isometric right away, because this is a 37-degree angle, we don't know specifically where these things land. So what I'm going to do is, you could do this one of 2 ways. One would be to measure this length of a line here, and then measure this length of a line here and just draw the line in between it. The other would be to step on this outside corner that we have existing and then come backwards from either corner by drawing some lines over here. Doesn't matter, I'll do one of each. So you have to go back into polar tracking for just a minute so that you can actually draw some lines out here to represent that corner that's right here. So then I can check my line length. I'll just do a right click and do properties, and the length of this line is 175, which we would expect that because that's this length right here, 1 3/4. So that one's a known line, and then the other one is this one. This one is an unknown line. So in 4 decimal places, we're going to get pretty close to where we need to be, 1.3187. That's going to be the length that we go this way. So what I'll do is go back into my orthographic mode, and I can drag this down here for temporary, and we'll come back into ortho mode and we'll draw this way, and we'll go 1.3187, that length. And I like to just sort of make a little tab, a little line extra that sort of sticks out there. Don't need that line anymore. I always get in the habit of deleting the extra lines that I make when I'm drawing these extra lines to draw a point-to-point. If you forget about erasing that line right there, if you were to ever take this to a laser cutter or to start drawing this in 3D, what would happen is that those lines end up doubling up and sometimes can just sort of make a file extra large. Doesn't need to be. So we'll grab another line. We'll come up this way, and this one's going to be the 1.75, 1 3/4. Now, this one again, I can't just use my orthographic mode to draw a line straight across here. Sometimes I can. Let's see if that does it. Yeah, it does that. Every once in a while, if this is especially too close to some other points that it wants to grab onto, you do have to drop down here and change it to polar tracking to be able to get rid of that. So because I left myself a little tab there, it gave me a point to lock onto, an end point. So now I'm just going to trim, and I'll trim this line, excuse me, trim, enter, enter. I'm going to trim this line away, and this line is its own line on top, and now, again, trim that guy. Delete this one. So that's the bottom shape of the drawing. That would be what we would see here, like this. So that's this corner taken care of now. And that's how we do angles repeatedly in AutoCAD. It's just a point-to-point type of a thing. So you are going to have to get used to drawing some parts of the 3-view drawing. I've drawn the whole part right here just to show you all the different parts, but sometimes you can get away with just drawing a few lines, like a line that's 2 1/8 and then 3/8 inch tall here, and then come up and draw back and then draw a 51-degree angle. You don't have to draw all the rest of it. I've just drawn that just so that it looks a little bit more cohesive rather than just a couple of lines all over the place. So now let's build some dimensionality into this. We'll draw some lines up. The thickness of this part is 3/8 of an inch at the base. So I can just draw a bunch of lines that are 3/8 of an inch up. You could also do a copy and paste command with this. And we don't necessarily need it, but I'm going to draw it in the back here for now. And then we can also connect some of these lines together. Again, you gotta, sometimes it's a little tricky to get to the end there. See how it doesn't want to snap in there. So I'm just going to drop down and click on the polar tracking mode just for one line, and then I can go right back to ortho mode again and snap up into there. So we're eventually going to get rid of a couple of these lines, this one and this one we don't need right now because we can't see them, and that line we're going to get rid of because we can't see it. So now we have this isometric bottom part of our piece here that represents this shape. We'll put the holes in a little bit after we get the rest of our lines drawn. So now if we start from, let's say, this back corner, we're looking at this vertical section here, and then it comes over and down. That's this vertical section that comes over and down, and it's represented up here as well. So let's go ahead and draw that in. So this length of the height of it here, the height of the total piece is 2 1/8 as well. So make sure that you're grabbing from the right spot. It's from the very, very bottom. So I'm going to draw a line from down here, 2 1/8 up. And then I can draw lines this way. And I know that I need 1 3/4 to get to the edge of this piece. And then I need another 3/8 of an inch to get to this piece, and then I'll need another 3/8 of an inch to get to where the angle of that 40 degrees ends. So I'm going to draw, it just makes it easier. You don't have to even do the addition to add the fractions together. Just add 1 3/4 inch line, and then a 3/8 of an inch line, and then another 3/8 of an inch line, and we end up where we need to be. So we'll start with 1 3/4. Then we'll go, make sure our mouse is still going in the right direction, 3/8, and then another 3/8, and we're there. Okay, now we don't know where this thing is going to end, so for right now, we'll just stop our line there. Now we need to go back to our 3-view drawing that we've drawn, and this is that 40-degree angle line right here. So I've done the same thing that I've just done here, 1 3/4, then 3/8, then another 3/8, and I'm right here. So I'm at this point right there. Oops. And so now I need to figure out where the end of this part of the line is. So I have the start point, it's right up here, Now I need to figure out where the end is. So the easiest way to do that is from this view, we're just going to draw a little line. And again, it might be helpful to be in polar mode. That line, the length of the line in between the end of the 40 degrees and the end of the block is 0.4144. You could have also used, if there's some simple measuring to do, you can use the measuring tool up here, where you can just click from one place to another and it gives you the 0.4144. So now, on my isometric drawing, I'm going to draw a little line, and again, give myself just a kind of a placeholder. So I'm going to draw up this way, 0.4144, draw in this direction, and I don't care what kind of an end point I give myself there, but now I'm going to use the polar mode and draw a line from there to there. And that is my 40-degree angle line. And I know that it's in the right spot because I've drawn the other drawing over here to measure everything out. Now again, let's add some dimensionality to this, and all of these sections up here, they are all 3/8 of an inch because it shows us here, and that's this part. If we were to just transfer that up and around the corner. So I'll add my 3/8 of an inch lines to give myself some thickness, and that needs to be in ortho mode. We need to look at it this way. 3/8 of an inch line there, 3/8 up here. And it's tough to see, but we are going to need a 3/8 of an inch line here because we're coming down. Oops. I don't think that was right. There. So it is coming down here. It's a very, very shallow angle, but we are going to be able to see a little bit of this bottom piece and this line up here. So now we just got to connect a couple more lines together. Let's see if I can snap that. Yep, it'll get there. And then we snap one across the top here. And then down to the base down here. Now, this is another example of where sometimes you really have to watch where your mouse is moving to. If I just held my mouse here, it would click over to the midpoint, which makes that line at a little bit of an angle, and I don't want that to happen. So what I'm going to do instead is draw my line here and then draw my line down further than I need to go, down into the bottom here, so that I know that that is where it's crossing and it's perfectly vertical, and then I'll trim after the fact. So now I can trim this off, and I don't need this anymore either. This is still the back. I don't need that anymore because we can't see that. And then there's this little section of a line there that we're getting rid of as well. So now we've drawn the back. So now we have this piece all taken care of. We can see this. Last part that we have to draw in are the circles and this little section here, this 51-degree section. So we know where the 51-degree section starts up at the top. That would be up here, but we have the line lengths right there. That's the part, that's the widthwise piece. So we're going to end up having to come down this way and then down the wall section here. And we'll have to create a little corner crease in there to show where this thing goes. I'll draw that in a second. But we also need to know this little length of a line here. So when we get to that part, I'll show you that we're going to need to find this little length right there. So let's get to drawing that little section. I'm going to start back in the back here. That's the end of my 1 3/4 inch line. I'm just going to draw this out to above that point. Same with the other side here. Draw that out to here. Just take care of this right away. Now we're going to come down the wall, and I'm going to come down further than I need again and use this corner to draw up this way to create the square. So what I've done is just created this section right here. Now, just to be able to find where the other side is, I'm going to come down here. In fact, I could have taken this up a little bit further, just so I know where that corner is going to be. And now we're going to draw lines that come out this way. And I'm going to purposefully draw them a little too long. I know that it needs to come out here, so, oops, trying to snap onto endpoints again. Let's just drag this way out here. Same with this one, way out here. Now we can start trimming this back. We'll trim it back to here just temporarily. There, 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 there. Get rid of a bunch of these lines in here. Don't need that crease. And we won't need this one eventually, but we'll leave it there for just a second. So we know that it starts at the top, this 51-degree angle, and it comes down this way to meet up a length of a line out here. So what I'm going to do is I need to find the length of that line out here, which is this section right here. We're looking at this part right there. This part right there. So now I come over to my drawing, and I just do another little measure. So I'm going to measure from this point to this point, and that is 0.3329. So now, over on my drawing, I need a 3329 line that goes right here. So get my line tool, draw this direction, make sure I'm drawing in the right direction, this way, 0.3329. And I can also snap it across this direction. That's the ending point of our lines. Trim this off. That's a little section of the line by itself. There. Okay, so that's the beginning and end of this line. Now, again, I like to use polar because it makes extra certain that I'm snapping in the right place. There's that line. Here's this line. Now we can start getting rid of a bunch of stuff in here, and we do also need to transfer this line. This is the corner. This needs to go the whole way back up to here. So we can use orthographic to do that as well. Just go down here. Now we start trimming this whole thing up. Don't need that line because this is one solid block here. We won't need this one, or that's a little section of a line. Need that one, and that's a little section of a line. So we get rid of both of those, and now you see we have our line sections up here. This is one solid block. This is an edge, so it does need a line right there, and then this comes down. This is all 90 degrees in here. Well, isometrically 90 degrees. This comes over here. Now the only thing we have to do is put the circles in. So the final part of our drawing is going to be drawing these isometric circles here. Now, when you look at a circle in a 3-view drawing, there is a perfect circle that we are drawing through this object, and then we have hidden lines to represent where that circle gets punched through dimensional parts and pieces. So when we look at it in the 3-view drawing, we have perfect circles in all of the different views because we're looking straight onto it. But in an isometric view, what happens is it's like taking a circle or a cylinder and cutting through it sideways. You don't end up with a perfect circle when you are looking at it. So what we have to do is use a different tool. We're going to use the ellipse tool, but we have to do something specific to get the circle. But before we do that, we have to place the circle. We have to find where the center of the circle is going to be placed. So let's do the easier one up here in the flat spot. We're going to be 7/8 of an inch in and 7/8 of an inch down from the top corner, and that's from up here. So if I start on the face of the piece here, and I go 7/8 of an inch in this direction, there's my line. So we're going to draw a line this way, 7/8 of an inch. Then I'm going to come down into the front this way, 7/8 of an inch. that will be the center of the circle, which is the center of this little block right here. So what we do is we go not to the center ellipse tool, but to the axis end ellipse tool. And what we do is we click on that, and AutoCAD gives us some options. So down here across the bottom, we have the options of arc, center, or iso circle. And so you can either hit I for iso circle or click on it right down here. And then it says specify axis endpoint of ellipse, specify the center of the iso circle. So there is the center, and we're going to start dragging it out. Now, just like all the rest of the drawing tools, we have to determine which face we are trying to draw on. So you can see that this is the right side view face. That doesn't look right as a circle. It needs to be on the front face. That's this one right here. So now the circle is drawn the correct way. Now we just need to get the size, and the size of the circles are 5/8 inch drill. So that means that it's a 5/8 of an inch diameter. Down across the bottom, we do have, right now we're specifying the radius. You can click on diameter and draw a diameter of a circle like that. So that will be 5/8 of an inch. And there's our circle. Now, I'm going to leave that line here for a second, the center line of it, because what I need to do is show depth going this way. It might not work out. We might not have any thickness here based on the size of the hole, but we need to put this iso circle also in through the back to show if we have any kind of a pass-through. So what I'm going to do is draw another line at this point, and I'm going to go back through the drawing 3/8 of an inch, because that's the thickness of this part up here. So I've drawn this line back to 3/8 of an inch. Now I'm going to take my iso circle that I already created. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to grab it from the center point. The base point is the center. And then I'm going to drag that back to here and click again. Now, that might seem a little confusing, but if you basically imagine that this is like a see-through block, I can get rid of this line, I can get rid of my extra line up there, I can get rid of this line, and then I can trim what we can't see, which is this part of the circle on the back side of the drawing. So if I trim this, now what you see is the circle on the front, the hole on the front, and you can see that it has some dimension because you can see the back side of the hole back here. We have to do the same thing with these two circles down here, and these circles are 7/8 of an inch in this direction, and then 3/4, and then 1 3/8 this way. So I'm going to draw some lines, come up this way, 7/8 of an inch, and then come this way, 3/4 for the first one, and then another 1 3/8 for the second one. So now that I have my ending points, I can draw another iso circle. I'll come in here, axis end circle, hit I for iso circle, specify the center of the iso circle, draw that out. Now hit D for diameter. Now 5/8 of an inch. There's my 5/8 of an inch circle on top. I'll do the same thing again. I always find that it's best to always make sure that you're clicking through the same sort of set directions rather than just using the tool that you had previously. It ensures that you are getting the right size. I could have also just copied and pasted the iso circle there as well. Alright, I got my lines drawn. Now from the center of the circle, I'm going to draw a line down 3/8 of an inch because that's the thickness of the part here as well. Specify the center, come down 3/8 of an inch, and we're going to do the same thing that we just did over here. I can actually just copy one of these, specify a base point, drop it there, and then drop it here as well. Do some trimming. Get rid of these parts. Get rid of that. Get rid of our line in between. And that's it. There is a fully isometric drawn part we have to start off with at least some of a 3-view drawing. Like I said, I drew this entire thing just so that you could see it, but you really wouldn't have to draw much more than just drawing the angles and the sort of points that they connect to in every case. And then when we draw the isometric circles, we have to do a little bit something different when we use the axis end ellipse tool to create an iso circle. Hope this was informative. Hit the like button or the subscribe if you want to see more. Thanks.